I took my husband's shattered phone to a repair shop thinking I was just trying to save his work files. 10 minutes later, the technician grabbed my arm, dragged me to a quiet corner, and whispered, panicking, "Change your locks and cancel every card you have. Now." I thought he was joking, until he turned the cracked screen toward me. The files he'd pulled up made my blood run cold. In that moment, I realized my husband wasn't just hiding something from me. He was planning something about me. Before I tell you what was on that phone, do me a favor. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you stories like this. Now, let me go back a little to the morning when everything still looked perfect, at least from the outside. That morning felt as ordinary as the hundreds I'd lived through with my husband, Mark. Fresh coffee scented the kitchen, steam drifting through the open doorway while he hummed in the shower. We'd built our life from nothing. A small but cozy house, steady jobs, a rented storefront we were turning into a business, and what I believed was a solid marriage. Mark kissed my forehead before sitting at the table, his smile just as warm as the day we met. We chatted about weekend plans and a movie we wanted to watch. It felt almost fragile in its perfection. The cracks had started weeks earlier. At first it was nothing, just a phone face down on the table instead of tossed anywhere like he used to. Then came the calls he'd silence mid-conversation, stepping out to the yard to answer. "Clients," he'd say. "Different time zones." He began locking himself in the home office until late at night. Once I woke at 2 in the morning and found him on the balcony, whispering urgently into his phone. When he saw me, he snapped it shut and muttered, "Difficult client." I pushed my doubts away. I didn't want to be the paranoid, jealous wife. I loved him. I trusted him. Or tried to. That morning, we were on the upstairs balcony. I was watering my hanging plants, and Mark leaned against the railing, eyes glued to his phone. I asked something about dinner, but he didn't answer. He was completely absorbed in whatever was on that screen. I stepped closer, joking, "Who are you chatting with so seriously?" and tried to peek. His reaction wasn't normal. He flinched like he'd been burned, yanking his hand away so fast the phone flew from his grip. We both watched it arc through the air, smack the metal railing, then crash onto the stone patio below with a sickening crack. I froze, bracing for an explosion. That phone was expensive, and all his work was on it. I expected swearing, panic, anything. Instead, when I whispered, "I'm so sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to." He slowly turned to me with no anger in his eyes at all. What I saw there was worse. Relief. He let out a long breath, like he'd been holding it for weeks. "It's fine," he said, strangely calm. "It's already broken." Downstairs, the phone was a ruin. Screen spider-webbed, frame bent. I crouched to pick it up, but he stopped me. "Leave it, Eva. I'll just buy a new one." When I protested about his data, he cut me off too quickly. "I backed everything up to the cloud. Forget it." He dropped the phone in the trash under the kitchen sink like it was a banana peel, not the device he supposedly needed for work. He seemed almost happy, too happy. He spent the rest of the morning unusually light, humming in the shower, suggesting we go out for breakfast. I tried to smile, but my stomach knotted. Why would anyone be relieved their phone had been destroyed? What could be on it that he was glad to lose? The doubts I'd been burying came roaring back. When Mark finally left to meet a client, I stood in the kitchen staring at the cabinet under the sink. I felt like a traitor, like the worst kind of wife. But the fear was stronger than the guilt. With shaking hands, I opened the cupboard, dug into the trash, and pulled out the broken phone. Its metal edge bit into my fingers. I wiped it off, wrapped it in a clean cloth, slipped it into my bag, and headed for the one person I knew who might be able to resurrect it, my cousin Ryan. Ryan ran a tiny phone repair shop in a downtown mall, a cramped space lit by harsh neon and stacked with spare parts. He looked up from a half-disassembled laptop and grinned. "Hey, Eva, this is a surprise. What's up?" I didn't bother with small talk. I unwrapped the phone and placed it on the glass counter. The screen was a mosaic of cracks. Ryan's smile vanished. "Whoa, dropped from a balcony?" "Something like that," I whispered. "Ryan, this is Mark's. I have a really bad feeling. Can you save anything from it? Any data at all?" He studied my face for a second, saw the terror there, and nodded. "It's in terrible shape," he said honestly, "but I'll try." He carried the wrecked phone into the back room and closed the door, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. Those 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. I wandered in circles in front of the shop, pretending to examine colorful phone cases. In my head, I rehearsed the worst-case scenario: cheating, flirty messages, secret photos, a knife to the heart, but a familiar one. People survive affairs, I told myself. We'd fight, cry, maybe separate. At least I'd understand it. Every time the door opened for another customer, I jumped. My thumb hovered over Mark's contact, desperate just to hear his voice, to pretend everything was normal, but I couldn't bring myself to call. What would I say? "Hey, I'm at the mall breaking into the phone you threw away." No. I canceled the call before it rang. I was staring blankly at the escalator when someone grabbed my arm. Ryan stood beside me, white as a sheet. He didn't look angry or curious. He looked terrified. Without a word, he tugged me down the corridor, away from his shop, into a quiet corner near the emergency stairs, out of sight of the mall cameras. He pressed me against the cool concrete wall, both hands gripping my shoulders, eyes locked on mine. "Ava," he whispered, voice shaking. "Listen to me and don't freak out. Not yet. You need to cancel every card in your name and change the locks on your house immediately." The words made no sense. Locks? Cards? Is this about gambling debts? Does Mark owe money? I stammered, grasping for something logical. "No," Ryan said, voice cracking. "This is way worse than debt." He pulled Mark's phone from his pocket. Somehow, despite the fractures, Ryan had managed to coax life into the screen. He opened a folder, and my own face stared back at me. Not in wedding photos or vacation snapshots. These were cold, clinical shots: my driver's license, my passport, a scanned copy of our marriage certificate, bank statements with my name at the top, a photo of the deed to our house. Under them, a draft legal document, a power of attorney letter, already typed with my full name and address, granting Mark complete authority to sell the house and transfer the funds. At the bottom was an image of my signature, copied perfectly from some other form. "He's been building a fake you," Ryan said quietly. "Enough to sign away everything you own." I felt the ground tilt. "Someone could have sent him those," I whispered. "Maybe it's identity theft. Maybe someone's trying to frame him." Ryan shook his head. "It's not that. Look." He opened the phone's guts a bit, showing me a tiny second memory card wedged behind the SIM tray, hidden in a way only a technician would even think to check. "This extra SD card shouldn't be there. The whole folder with your documents is stored on that hidden card, not in his regular storage. That means he hid it. He collected these himself." My throat tightened. "Why?" Ryan didn't answer. Instead, he tapped a secure-looking messaging app I'd never seen on Mark's home screen. "One chat, one contact, Jay." The last incoming message had arrived just minutes before the phone died, now reloaded once Ryan powered it. "Nice. Phone destroyed. Final stage tonight as planned. Make sure she's out cold when we clear everything." The mall noise faded into a dull roar. Out cold. The phrase echoed in my skull. I clung to one last shred of denial. This could still be about money, right? Maybe he wants to clear out our accounts and run. Maybe I've just been married to a selfish jerk. My voice sounded thin even to me. Ryan's face hardened. "Ava, this isn't just fraud. Why would they need you out cold to empty accounts? Why the forged signature? Why the hidden ID folder? Whatever this is, it's dangerous. We don't have time to figure out motives right now. We need to keep you alive and your assets safe." He took a breath. "I'm cloning everything. Phone and hidden card. Onto an external drive. That's your evidence. Then we act." He slipped back into technician mode, hands moving with calm precision. "Here's the plan," he said while the progress bar crawled across the screen. 1. Get somewhere quiet and call every bank you use. Say your wallet was stolen. Freeze all cards and personal accounts immediately. Forget the joint ones for now. Save what's only in your name. 2. Go home, call a 24-hour locksmith, and change every lock before Mark gets back. He thinks this phone is destroyed, so he'll act normal. Let him. 3. Do not eat or drink anything he gives you tonight. Not a sip, not a bite. I don't care if he gets offended. I swallowed hard and nodded. "What about the police?" Not yet, Ryan said. We don't know who Jay is or how connected they are. If they get spooked, they could vanish, or worse. We need them caught in the act with evidence. I'll stash the clone data in a new phone box so you have a reason to be at the mall and to bring a package home. 10 minutes later, I walked out of the shop with a glossy paper bag containing a brand new phone and hidden inside its box, the hard drive that might save my life. I didn't go to the parking garage. Instead, I cut through to the lobby of the hotel attached to the mall and sank into a velvet sofa between laughing tourists and busy business travelers. My world had just exploded, and around me life went on as if nothing had happened. My hands shook so badly I mistyped my PIN 3 times before finally unlocking my own phone. I called my first bank, forcing my voice into frantic customer mode. My wallet's gone, I said. I need every card in my name blocked right now. The process was agonizing. Automatic menus, hold music that made my skin crawl, endless security questions. Mother's maiden name, last 4 digits of my social security, current address, 3 different banks, 3 different sets of operators. Are you sure you want all your cards frozen, ma'am? One asked gently. Yes, I snapped, maybe louder than I meant. A man in a suit glanced over at me. I lowered my voice. Please, I'm really scared. By the time the last account was locked, and even my savings and certificates were frozen, nearly an hour had passed. My coffee-scented morning felt like a memory from another life. Next came the locks. I searched 24-hour locksmith emergency and called the first number. Can you change all the locks on a house today? I asked. It's kind of urgent. The man on the other end sounded relaxed. Today, sure, but probably not until late afternoon. No, I said sharply. I need you now. It's an emergency. I'm locked out and my kid is inside. The lie slipped out effortlessly. I'll pay triple your normal fee if you're there in 30 minutes. Money talks. He agreed instantly. I gave him my address, grabbed my keys, and headed for the parking lot. Halfway home, my phone buzzed. Mark. My heart stopped for a beat, then I answered. Hey, he said warmly. Where are you? I went to the mall, I said, keeping my voice breezy. I felt terrible about your phone, so I bought you a new one. There was a pause, then a soft laugh. You didn't have to do that. I told you it was fine. I know, I said, but I still felt bad. You heading home? He asked. Yeah, 10 minutes out. Perfect, he said. I'm just leaving the office. I'll cook us something special tonight to celebrate the upgrade. The word special made my stomach twist. Sounds great, I said, forcing a smile into my voice. The locksmith's white van was already parked outside when I pulled in. He must have seen how pale I was because he worked fast, drilling out the old cylinder and installing a new, more secure lock. The screech of metal on metal was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. I tried to look like a normal, stressed homeowner while my eyes kept darting to the street, expecting Mark's silver sedan to appear any second. As the locksmith tested the new key, my phone vibrated again. Ma'am? He asked. I flinched, then answered Mark's call. Hey, almost home, he said. You okay? You sound tense. Just tired, I lied. The mall was crazy. I'll tell you about it when you get here. The lock clicked smoothly. The locksmith handed me a gleaming new set of keys and a receipt. I shoved a wad of cash into his hand, far more than he'd asked. Thank you, I whispered. Really? His van drove away just as a silver sedan turned the corner. Mark pulled up behind my car and stepped out, smiling the same easy smile I'd fallen for years ago. Only now it looked like a mask. He walked up the path, reached for his usual key, and frowned when it wouldn't even slide into the lock. He tried again, harder. Nothing. That's weird, he muttered. Then he looked at me, eyes narrowing. Why doesn't my key work? I forced a shaky laugh and held up the new keys. So, about the mall. I launched into the story I'd rehearsed. I'm pretty sure my wallet got stolen or I dropped it. I'm not sure. But the spare house key was in there. Our address too. I freaked out. I called the bank, canceled everything, and had the locks changed. I was going to tell you, everything happened so fast. His jaw tightened when I mentioned the frozen accounts. I got an email from the bank, he said slowly. Everything in your name is blocked. I widened my eyes, letting my voice tremble. "I'm sorry. I panicked. I thought someone could just walk in here and—" He studied me for a long, heavy second. I could almost see the calculations behind his eyes. Then gradually his expression softened back into loving husband mode. He pulled me into a hug. "You did the right thing," he murmured. "You must have been terrified." Inside, the house felt like a stage, and we were actors playing parts. I set the shopping bag on the coffee table and handed him the new phone box. "This is for you," I said. He smiled. "You really didn't have to." But his eyes flicked to the box with something like satisfaction. "We'll set it up later. First, let me make it up to you for the awful day you had. I'm cooking dinner." He opened the fridge and pulled out expensive steaks, asparagus, mushrooms, fresh herbs. From the wine rack, he chose a bottle we'd been saving for a special occasion. "Sit," he said, guiding me to a chair at the table. "You look exhausted. Let me take care of you tonight." The words made my skin crawl. I watched him like a hawk. Every time he bent to a lower cabinet or turned his back at the counter, my heart hammered against my ribs. Was that when he'd slipped something into my food? Was the poison in the sauce? In the wine? The kitchen filled with the rich smell of searing steak and garlic butter, aromas that normally made my mouth water but now made me nauseous. He plated the meal beautifully and set a generous portion in front of me. "Eat while it's hot," he said, then turned to the wine. "Oh, wait. The best part." He uncorked the bottle with a practiced twist, the pop of the cork thunderous in the tense silence. He poured 2 glasses, his back mostly to me. I couldn't see his hands clearly. When he turned around, he set 1 glass in front of me, the dark red wine catching the light. "Cheers," he said, raising his glass. "To our future." I lifted mine, hand trembling. As I tilted it slightly, the light caught something at the bottom, a faint dusting of off-white powder clinging to the crystal. The sight slammed the breath from my lungs. It was real. He was trying to poison me. I let the rim touch my lips, letting a trace of wine dampen them, but didn't swallow. I set the glass down. "How is it?" he asked, eyes fixed on my face. "Delicious," I whispered. I had to get away. "I think I left my phone in the car," I said suddenly. "If someone found my wallet, they might call. I should check." "I'll grab it," he offered quickly. "No," I said too fast. "It's fine. I need my charger too." I grabbed the new phone box on my way out of the dining room, pretending I was taking it to plug in. Instead of heading to the garage, I slipped into the small guest bathroom off the hallway, locked the door, and flipped on the fan. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped my phone. "He's really doing it," I typed to Ryan. "Powder in the wine." I pretended to drink. "Food's in front of me. I haven't swallowed anything." I told him I'm getting my phone. Ryan answered almost immediately. "Okay, breathe. I've been digging into the data. There's a backup calendar and GPS logs that aren't encrypted. Mark has a repeating event every Wednesday at noon for the past few months. Same cafe downtown. After that, he drives to the same luxury condo building for a couple of hours. I'm cross-checking who lives in that unit." My heart pounded. "That doesn't tell me who Jay is," I typed back. "Wait," Ryan replied. "I think I have it. He saved screenshots from a different messaging app linked to social media. There are photos, 2 champagne glasses, city lights through a huge window. The location tag is that condo. The caption says, 'One step closer to our freedom. I love you, A.' And it's posted from an account named Jenna. A notification popped up, an image. I forced myself to look. The profile picture was of my best friend Jenna, smiling the same bright smile she'd worn sitting across from me at lunch just last week, calling me so lucky to have a husband like Mark. Another screenshot, her profile header, her face, the username I'd seen 1,000 times. Jay wasn't some faceless criminal. Jay was Jenna, my oldest friend, my bridesmaid, the woman who hugged me when I cried about Mark. The betrayal was so deep it almost eclipsed the fear. My chest felt like it was splitting open. It wasn't just my husband. It was my husband and my best friend plotting together, stealing my life, planning my death. A quiet, cold rage rose through the panic, burning everything else away. I wasn't going to die curled up in a bathroom. I wiped my tears, splashed water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the woman staring back, pale, eyes rimmed red, but there was steel there I'd never seen before. I texted Ryan again. He tried to drug me. "Jenna is Jay. They're doing it tonight," he replied instantly. "I'm already on my way with the drive and my gear. I've called the police. They're staging near your neighborhood, but because you changed the locks, I can't get in without you. You need to open the back door when you have a chance." I took a breath, unlocked the bathroom door, and walked back to the dining room. Mark looked up from his plate, concern etched across his features like a perfect performance. "You okay?" he asked. "You've been gone a while." "I'm just dizzy," I said, pressing a hand to my temple. "Probably stress. Maybe something I ate at the mall." I slid back into my chair. My steak sat mostly untouched, my wine glass still brimming with poison. "Try to eat," he urged, "and drink your wine. You'll relax." I lifted my fork, cut off a tiny piece of steak, and brought it to my mouth, making sure he saw. I chewed, then pretended to swallow. "I'm really not hungry," I murmured. I pushed the plate away slightly. "I'm going to lie down for a bit. My head is pounding." He hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, I'll clean up. You rest, okay?" I staggered slightly as I left the room, exaggerating my wobble so he'd think whatever he slipped me was taking effect. In the bedroom, I grabbed my phone, typed a quick message, "Going to fake passing out. Be ready," and slipped it under the bed. Screen dimmed. Then I pulled a pillow from the mattress and dropped it loudly onto the floor, followed by my own body, letting myself hit the hardwood with a convincing thud. I lay on my side, forcing my breathing to slow, my muscles to slacken. Footsteps hurried down the hall. "Ava?" Mark's voice sounded strained. He rushed into the room, then stopped. I felt his presence above me. He didn't call my name again in panic. He didn't check my pulse like a worried husband. First, he lifted my wrist, feeling for tension in my fingers, then gently pulled open one eyelid, shining his phone flashlight briefly across my pupil. I kept my gaze unfocused and my lids heavy. "Good," he murmured under his breath. He tapped my cheek, not hard, just enough to test my reaction. I stayed limp. He exhaled, long and relieved, exactly the same way he'd exhaled when the phone shattered that morning. In his mind, the hardest part was done. I listened closely as he moved away and heard the faint beep of his phone dialing. "She's out," he said, voice flat and businesslike. "Bring the documents. It's time to clear everything out." I waited until he left the room, judging by the noises, heading back toward the kitchen and living area, before inching a hand under the bed to grab my phone. He called her. I texted Ryan. "They're coming with paperwork. He thinks I'm unconscious." "Police are in position," he replied. "I'm almost at your backyard. When you hear him in the kitchen again, make your move." I slid the phone back under the bed and resumed my statue act. After a few minutes, I heard cupboards opening, dishes clinking, running water. He was cleaning up the scene, washing wine glasses, probably trying to erase traces of the powder. My heart thrummed like a drum. I let out a low groan and shifted slightly, as if in restless sleep. Mark's footsteps returned to the bedroom doorway. "Ava?" he said softly. I mumbled something incoherent. "I'll get you some water," he said, sounding impatient more than worried. "Just stay put." Far from comforting, his voice had a hard edge now that the mask had slipped. As soon as I heard him walk away toward the kitchen again, I rolled to my feet, moved silently down the hall, and slipped into the small laundry room at the back of the house. My fingers fumbled at the bolts, top, then bottom, while adrenaline screamed through my veins. The night air rushed in as I cracked the door. Ryan was there in the shadows, backpack over one shoulder, eyes wide. "In," I hissed. He slipped inside and I shut the door behind him, locking it again. He pulled a tiny wireless earpiece and a button-like microphone from his bag. "Police are right down the street," he whispered. "I'll get Jenna talking. We need her to spell out the plan on tape." We crept back toward the hall. Ryan ducked into the guest bathroom just as the front door rattled. Someone knocked, sharp and impatient. "Mark?" Jenna's voice called. "Why did you change the locks? My key doesn't work." My blood turned to ice. Ryan, hidden in the bathroom doorway where the hallway curved, raised his voice just enough to carry. From a distance, with the door between them, it sounded uncannily like Mark. "Be right there," he called hoarsely, projecting toward the entry. "New lock sticking." I heard the deadbolt turn. Ryan must have used the new key I'd handed him, and the front door opened. "Finally," Jenna snapped, heels clicking on the hardwood. "You're making me nervous. There's a cop car parked up the street." "Routine patrol," Ryan said, still mimicking Mark. "Relax. She's out cold. Come on, we need to finish this." From my place in the bedroom, eyes barely open, I heard both sets of footsteps approaching. Jenna's perfume hit me first, the same fragrance I'd bought her for her birthday. She moved to my bedside, her voice soft and fake sympathetic. "Poor Eva," she murmured, fingertips grazing my cheek. "She really believed you loved her." "Love doesn't pay debts," Ryan said, still pretending to be Mark, nudging the conversation. Jenna laughed quietly. "You were the one who came to me begging, remember? Crying about your gambling losses, saying you'd do anything to get free. I just pointed out the obvious solution, your sweet, wealthy wife." She set something down on the nightstand, a thick folder, and what sounded like a metal stamp. "I found a buyer for the house. I drafted the fake power of attorney. All you had to do was collect her documents and keep her distracted." I lay perfectly still while she lifted my thumb, pressing it into an ink pad and then onto paper. "There," she said, satisfied. "If anyone checks, we've got a verified thumbprint to match the forged signature. No one will doubt it was her choice." Ryan kept playing along. "And the phone?" he asked. "Throwing it off the balcony was dramatic but effective," Jenna replied. "We couldn't risk her stumbling on the hidden folder or our messages. Not that she would. She trusts you so blindly, it's pathetic." The words cut deep, but I swallowed the sting. There would be time to feel later. Right now, every sentence she spoke was another nail in her own coffin. "Now for the fun part," Jenna went on, her tone turning businesslike. "We don't just want the money, we want a clean story. I've already put some very convincing photos of us on your laptop, just a few strategic kisses, enough to look scandalous. She finds out you're bankrupt and cheating, breaks down, and decides to end it all. Poor Ava, overwhelmed, drinks too much, turns on the gas in the kitchen and falls asleep. You happen to be out, devastated, trying to clear your head with me. One tragic accident, and then we're free to sign the sale and drain the accounts." She moved toward the door. "Start gathering anything valuable and your laptop. I'll handle the gas." Outside, tires crunched on gravel. A car door shut quietly. The police were in position. Ryan's voice crackled in the tiny earpiece he'd slipped into my ear when he'd first come in. "We've got enough," he whispered so softly only I could hear. "I'm signaling them now." But before they could storm the house, Jenna rushed back into the room, breathless. "Mark," she hissed, "there are definitely cops out there. How the hell do they know?" She stopped short when she finally really looked at Ryan's face in the light and realized he wasn't Mark. "You've got to be kidding me," she spat. Then her gaze snapped to me on the bed. Her eyes went wild. She lunged. If she silenced me now, everything might still fall apart. I rolled off the bed just as her hands closed on empty air. She crashed into the headboard, cursing. I grabbed the heavy ceramic lamp from the nightstand and swung it with everything I had. It smashed into her shoulder, sending her sprawling. At that exact moment, the front door exploded inward with a thunderous crack. "Police! Don't move!" officers shouted. Two of them barreled into the bedroom, guns drawn. One tackled Jenna as she tried to scramble to her feet, forcing her face down and yanking her arms behind her back. "Hands behind your head!" he barked. She kicked and screamed, blaming everyone but herself. In the background, I heard other officers shouting from the kitchen, "Gas is on! Get these burners off! Open the windows!" Cool night air began to push out the suffocating smell of gas. Down the hall, another door crashed open, the guest bathroom, where Mark had apparently been hiding once he realized something was wrong. He stumbled out, hands up, eyes wild. Unlike Jenna, he didn't fight. He dropped to his knees immediately, sobbing. "It wasn't my idea," he wailed. "She made me do it. Jenna did everything. I didn't want to hurt Eva." An officer cuffed him anyway, reading him his rights. In the bedroom, Jenna finally stopped struggling when she saw Mark being led past the doorway. She twisted in the officer's grip to glare at me. Her hair was mussed, her perfume sharp in the air, her eyes full of poison. "You think you've won," she hissed. "You think he ever really loved you? He was mine from the start." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My whole body was shaking. A paramedic wrapped a foil blanket around my shoulders and checked my vitals, while Ryan handed a small hard drive and his phone to the lead detective. "Everything's on there," Ryan said, voice steady now. Full clone of Mark's phone and the hidden SD card, screenshots, documents, the secret chat with Jenna. And I've got audio of them describing the plan in detail. A gas suicide, the forged papers, everything. The detective nodded grimly. "We'll take the glass from the dining table too," he said. "If there's residue of anything in your wine, it'll show up in toxicology." I thought of the powder clinging to the crystal and shivered. Hours later, in a fluorescent-lit interview room at the station, I told the whole story from the balcony to the bedroom, with Ryan sitting beside me as a witness. Saying it all out loud made it feel both more real and more unreal, like recounting a nightmare I'd somehow survived. When I finished, the detective leaned back with a sigh. "Your statement matches the evidence and what your husband's telling us," he said. He started talking as soon as he was in handcuffs, hoping cooperation will save him. Slowly, the picture filled in. Mark and Jenna had known each other since college. Long before I met him, she had a talent for bending people to her will. She'd lent him money through one of her shady investment companies, only for the investment to be designed to fail. The debts were huge, hundreds of thousands of dollars he could never repay. According to Mark, it was Jenna's idea that he date and marry me. I had a modest inheritance, a house in my name, and a promising small business property. "She told him you were the perfect Mark," the detective said, disgusted. "Sweet, trusting, financially comfortable. He thought he could love you and play along enough to get free." Jenna, of course, had no intention of ever letting him go. Years of pressure and manipulation later, when the money wasn't enough, she decided I was worth more dead than alive. I asked about the poison. The detective's jaw tightened. "He claims he only meant to give you enough to knock you out so he could sneak you out before Jenna set off the gas," he said. "But the labs already tested the residue. The dose in your glass was more than enough to kill you. We're charging them both with attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and a few other things." The trial didn't take long. The evidence was overwhelming. The cloned data, the forged documents, my thumbprint pressed under Jenna's guidance, the audio Ryan had recorded of her explaining the suicide setup, the gas left on in the kitchen. Mark, desperate to save himself, pled guilty and cooperated fully. He cried on the stand, blamed his gambling addiction and Jenna's threats, insisted he'd had second thoughts. It didn't erase the fact that he'd actively taken steps to kill me. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in prison for his role in the conspiracy and the attempted murder. Jenna, on the other hand, showed no remorse. Confronted with the recordings, she smirked, then claimed we had framed her. The jury didn't buy it. As the judge read out her conviction and life sentence, she finally turned to look at me. Her face was oddly calm as she sat in the defendant's chair, wrists chained. When our eyes met, she gave me a small, chilling smile, as if to say, "I may be going to prison, but I still tore your life apart." For a while, I believed that. The nights were worst. I'd wake up sweating, hearing her voice in my head, seeing Mark leaning over me with that relieved exhale. But as the months passed, something shifted. They hadn't destroyed me. They'd destroyed the illusion I'd been living in. But I was still here. Bruised, yes. Changed, absolutely. But still here. I refused to let them take my home. With the help of a good lawyer and the evidence Ryan had secured, every fraudulent move Jenna and Mark had attempted was reversed. The sale of our storefront property was canceled. The forged documents were voided. Bit by bit, I reclaimed what was mine. I sold almost all the furniture that carried their ghosts. The sofa where Jenna had sat drinking coffee. The dining table where Mark had served me a special dinner. The bed where I'd faked unconsciousness. I painted the bedroom a calming blue and replaced the old bed with a new one, solid and simple. The house smelled of fresh paint and lemon oil instead of fear. On a bright morning, several months after the sentencing, I sat at my new kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee. Sunlight streamed in through clean windows, catching the dust motes as they danced. On my laptop screen, Ryan's face grinned back at me from a video call. "So," he said, voice crackling a little through my speakers, "no more gas smell, no mysterious phone calls, just you and your overpriced artisan coffee?" I laughed, really laughed, the kind that made my shoulders shake. "Just the smell of victory and fresh paint," I said. His shop had blown up in the best way after the story hit the local news. Journalists called him the hero technician who'd helped stop a murder. Business was booming. "Don't forget your cape," I teased. "You're basically a superhero now." His smile softened. "I just did what anyone would do," he said. "You're the one who walked back into that house knowing what they were planning." He paused. "You sure you're okay staying there alone?" I looked around. The quiet no longer felt sinister. It felt peaceful. "I'm not alone," I said. "I've got good locks, nosy neighbors, and a cousin who can hack anything with a battery." I told him about my idea for the storefront we'd almost lost, a small book and coffee shop somewhere calm and warm that was mine in every sense. "That sounds perfect for you," he said. "I'm proud of you, Eva." "I couldn't have done it without you," I replied. "You could," he said. "You just needed a little technical backup." After we hung up, I closed the laptop and walked down the hallway. The repaired guest bathroom door stood open. The bedroom walls were a tranquil blue, the bed stripped of old shadows. At the front door I paused, looking at the solid oak and the new deadbolt. I picked up my single, shining house key from the dish on the console table. No spare keys floating around in other people's purses. No copies hidden in someone else's drawer, just one key in my hand. I stepped outside, let the crisp air wash over my face, then turned back and slid the key into the lock. The bolt turned with a clean, satisfying click. Once I locked my door just to keep strangers out. Now I lock it to protect a hard-earned peace and a life that finally belongs to me. If you stayed with me all the way to the end of this story, tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so more people can hear it. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and please always know where your keys and your phone really are.